Right. So we are live here. I think should be on Facebook, LinkedIn, Purpose Center Leadership page, as well as YouTube. So if you are watching, please place your name in the comments and where you are watching from, so I can say hello. Also, today we're going to talk about managers, right? So if you are a manager, I just want you to also add that you are a manager. If you're not, that's okay. But if you are one, I'd like for you to put that you are a manager as well. So let me know where you're calling in from, where you're watching from, and then we'll get started. I'm going to give about a minute for people to get on, and then we will get started. So, what city or state or country you're from, and what is your role? Okay, are you a manager? Hey, Mariana, London. Okay, US. So, Mariana Prevail, Kiara Daniels. If you guys are a manager, just put that. If you're not, it's fine. But today I'm going to be talking specifically to managers, but we also want the leaders and everyone else here as well. All right. So, all right, Nairobi, Bristol, Saudi Arabia. I just love seeing the different countries on here. The company is called Sharon Gill International, and that was always the vision, to speak on a global level. I so value the opinions and the diversity of thought from everyone, especially from different countries. I myself, if you guys listen to me enough, you guys know I'm definitely not a US person. I'm from Jamaica. I came to this country, the US, 35 years ago, but I've not lost my accent. So I love seeing the different countries on here: Alabama, Kenya, Nairobi again, South Africa, Fort Collins. Just love it. And if you are a manager, please put in the comments that you are a manager. I want to have a little bit of a different flavor today. I want you guys to be very participatory today. I want to get some questions, and I want to get some really active comments, and I will be placing those on the screen. For those of you who don't know me, again, I'm Sharon Gill. I am a business coach and strategist. I work with executives, I work with companies, I work with leaders to help them strategize, to help them gain clarity, become more effective in what they do, and to obtain results. I love doing it, and I love helping others get to that next level. So I'm going to jump right in. So the title today was taken from this book. It's The Manager, right? So this is a book that was done by Gallup. Jim Clifton and Jim Hartner, they wrote about It's The Manager. And the idea behind the book is that the quality of managers and team leaders is the single biggest factor in your organization's long-term success. So the quality of the managers, team leaders, etc., is the biggest factor in your organization's success. So I did a poll 3 days ago or so, and I asked folks to put what their role was. The people who follow this page at Purpose Center Leadership, what is your role? And what we found out were 43% of you were managers, 15% were team leaders, and 30% were C-suite leaders, etc. And 12% were other, right? So I realized that 43%, and if you add 15% from the team lead, I would say that's what, 58% of you guys were not in the top leadership role, you guys were in a manager role. And so what does that mean, right? What does that mean? Well, we talk about leadership so much. Leadership is the topic of the day, right? And there's a good reason for it, because leaders, they are very impactful, right? We follow leaders, right? And so they're making all the big decisions. The issue, though, is that the managers are executing on the decisions, and they're also leading. And so I wanted to spend some time today talking about the role of managers, right? The traditional role is that managers manage processes and they manage things, and leaders lead, right? Leaders have the commands and the vision, and that is true. So in every organization, there's really one true leader, right? And that's the founder, the CEO, the person who is casting the vision, right? But there are many, many other people, especially the larger the organization. that are in roles of manager, supervisor, team leaders. And what I think that we have overlooked as organization, right? We have overlooked the important role that managers play. I think we relegate managers to, well, they're a manager, right? We pretty much as leaders, we make up the rules and they execute on the rules. And what Gallup is finding out, right? And you guys have heard this, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers, right? And so why aren't we paying more attention to manager? Everyone on this call today who's watching this feed, if they're not a manager, they have been managed, they've experienced good and perhaps maybe bad management. And so we can have a conversation about it. What is a true role of a manager? And is it time to shift the mindset surrounding managers? Is it time, especially as we're shifting so many mindsets right now, right? We're talking about hybrid workplaces. We're talking about, pivoting our workplace. We're talking about different culture post-COVID. So how about we look at managers? Should they be given more opportunities to be developed as somewhat of a leader? So when I work with companies, right, I love to empower the managers. That's one of the things that I talk to leaders about. Like, okay, who's on your management team? What is their role? And how much autonomy have they been given, right? And have they been given the proper training, the proper tools? Have they been given personal development opportunities? Because they're the ones that are on the front lines with the folks, right? They're the ones that are actually mentoring, nurturing, or not the people who are doing the work. And surprisingly enough, this has not been a lot of attention given to managers. And especially now, as we're entering this post-COVID era, I read recently where there was some scuffle or dust up about the perception, right, that top leaders were having about employees who are choosing to work from home. And the perception is that the employees who work from home were being perceived as people who didn't have a hustle, right? And it created quite a storm in the news, in the news cycle, right? And I think I forgot which CEO had first said it, and there were others who had agreed, but they had to apologize, right? Because what is happening is we're setting up the system already to be pro employees who work in the workplace or in a brick and mortar, and maybe not so pro, right? More against employees who choose to work from home. And the manager role in all of this is going to be very, very important. And I'll tell you why. If the manager is not properly trained to manage a hybrid workplace, in the next 2 to 3 to 4 months, we're going to see a lot of confusion, a lot of people leaving organizations because managers are not equipped. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that, right? I'd love to hear some of your thoughts and your questions on that, right? Should we look at the role of managers? So, for example, let's go back to the hybrid workplace. So if a manager, and again, I've had some great managers, right? And I've had a couple, not so great managers, because managers are people, and lack of training will show up in how a manager communicate with the team, right? So if a manager is not equipped, it's going to roll downhill. It's just the way it is. And so how is a manager then, without proper training, how is a manager supposed to handle a hybrid workplace? As it is, right? The managers who are not as evolved as it is, they can be very competitive with people who they're handling, right? And that's a manager who is not fully evolved, right? Not fully developed. Because when you're fully developed, you're developing your people. You're not seeing them as a competition. So in today's hybrid workplace, a manager who is not properly trained to handle the two types of environment, right? So how are they going to perceive the employee who chooses to work from home? How is that employee going to be, let's say, reviewed under performance appraisal? How is that employee going to be positioned for a promotion if the manager is not properly trained? Here we have the leaders already thinking that employees who are choosing to stay at home in their own hybrid model, they're already choosing to criticize in a way those employees as not having enough hustle, which means they don't have enough drive, almost like they don't have enough ambition, right? Because they want to stay at home. So that is setting up a toxic, truthfully, work environment if we are not training right here in this moment. And so I'd love to hear from if there's a leader on this feed. If there is a manager, I would love to hear your thoughts on managing in this hybrid workplace, and how are you wrapping your head around the two types of environment that you have to manage: the employee who stays at home and works on a flexible schedule but still get the job done, right? Because the hybrid workplace is now being positioned to be those who work at home is going to be more outcome based, not so much if it's a 9 to 5, right? But more, here's a task, here's your role, and get it done by Friday. And so if you want to work at 10 p.m. at night, that's fine. So it's more outcome based. But how are you as a manager and leaders, how are you telling your managers, how are you communicating to your managers how to handle this hybrid environment, whereby we're trying to avoid a toxic work culture where the people who come back to work in the actual brick and mortar is being treated one way, and the ones who choose to stay at home to have a more flexible schedule is being treated another way. So I would love to hear from you guys if there are any questions on that. So I'll read a quick section from here, right? And because it's something I've trained managers to do. Managers at all levels, whether they're team leaders, managers of other managers, or executive leaders, need a well-defined and well-articulated mission and purpose that everyone can easily relate back to the work that they do every day, their contribution. So managers, here's something that I've always said to managers, right? The company, the leader has set a vision and a mission, right? An overall vision and mission for the organization. But I've always told and instructed managers, counseled managers, that they should take their own mission statement based on the overall mission statement. So if you're managing a department, for example, and your company's mission statement is, we want to be the best widget maker in the state of, I don't know, Texas, then the manager should take that mission statement and make it a departmental statement by saying something like this: we want to be the hardest working department in the state of Texas, right? So that may sound a little vague, but what the book is the manager is saying is that managers should also have a well-articulated mission, because the idea is that a manager is like a mini CEO of their own department, or that's the way how they should be thinking. Not so much thinking that they're managing timesheets and processes and SOPs, because they're managing, and by managing, they're actually leading and influencing people. And so, again, I'm thinking people are very shy with asking questions today, but I would love to know your thoughts on that. Let's see. Hello from Chicago. Stephanie's saying managerial roles may have to be reevaluated to ensure that they don't communicate biases to favor in-office workers. I agree that it would be toxic to assume that people who work from home are more likely to be lower quality producers. Stephanie, when I saw that in the news, I think it was trending on Twitter or on LinkedIn. I was like, wow, okay, it's starting already. Because I know in the news as well, employees are, from what I've seen in the headlines, employees are actually quitting rather than going back to a brick and mortar. So employees, great employees, are saying, I don't want to go back to the brick and mortar atmosphere. So companies, right, are saying, okay, we're going to be flexible. We're going to have a hybrid model. But what was happening behind the scenes of those decisions, when the leaders were saying, okay, it's great to have a hybrid, behind the scenes, though, they were already setting up in their minds that those very employees who are choosing to stay at home, they have no hustle, right? They're not the same, they're not as driven as the ones who are choosing to come back to work. So there's a lot of re-education needed in this post COVID atmosphere, and managers are going to be the ones, right? It's a manager are going to be the ones that are going to take a lot of the blame. And so I'm speaking to managers today, and I'm speaking to leaders as well, to reevaluate, right, your training, throw out the old playbook. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because we have not been at this place before, not in this century. We have not been where we've had a pandemic that sent everyone home, and now we're having to come back partially, et cetera, still wearing masks in some places. We haven't had this before. So the old playbook doesn't work. Dr. George Kelly said, did we really need Gallup and a new poll to tell us this long known fact? Dr. George, no. But, being that Gallup is kind of like the authority on polls, it's really good to have this very thick book, right, with all their findings. But we didn't need that. We've all experienced, like I said, good managers and not so good managers, right? But I really feel in a way it's kind of unfair to managers to keep saying it's the manager's stupid, it's the manager's fault. It's the manager's role is what I'd rather say. It's the role that they've been given and have been handed to them from leader, right? Because truthfully, everything really does rise and fall on a leader, right? And so we like to blame the manager because they're the ones with the message. But remember, the managers get their cues from the leaders and how they execute it, may or may not be that effective. But I do believe that leaders have a responsibility in this time to set a new vision, right? Throw out the old vision or throw out the old mission. Keep your vision, right? But how you execute your vision is going to have to be very different in these times. And I think it's time that we re-evaluate the roles of managers. Okay, someone says managers call manager only and only when she has a leadership skills with execution of duties. Unfortunately, Raj, that's not true. A manager is called manager, right? Not when they have leadership skills. It's when they is a position to fill, to manage people. That doesn't mean that they have leadership skills. And that's the sad part. Managers are promoted. Usually in companies traditionally, from what I've seen in my experience, and I've been managing for and being around managers and leaders now for 30 something years, from my experience, and I've done this myself, you promote someone to management because they're an excellent worker. They're an excellent employee. And so you think, oh man, because they're an excellent employee, I'm going to put them in management. Wrong. Excellent workers don't necessarily become great managers. Managers need to be trained and especially be retrained in today's organizational culture, right? In today's post-COVID world. Let's see. Wayne says, how much micromanagement should managers have on remote workers? In other words, with so much room for abuse, how can they know who's being productive? Great question, Wayne, which is probably why the leaders who were caught with their pants down, saying that the ones who work from home have less hustle, there is a real balancing act, right? So there are those work from home employees who are going to abuse the system. I know this because, 26 years ago, I worked with an organization that was trying remote work for the first time. This is way long before this, obviously, 27 years ago. It was a Fortune 500 company, and they were trying remote work, and I was chosen as one of the people to experiment with. There were 3 of us. I made it through successfully. The other 2 did not because they took for granted the fact that they were at home and they had full autonomy. So they fell asleep. They were taking care of their kids on work time and not doing the work, right? Some couldn't, the leader couldn't get them on the phone. So there's a lot of abuse in it. And there are people who are going to abuse it, right? So with regards to micromanagement, I like the outcome-based approach that is being banded around right now, as that if you have a project or a task that you are given your 1 week to complete this task or this project, and at the end of that week, how you choose to complete it, if you want to work, 10 to 2 and then take 4 hours off and work 7 to 10, that's your problem. Just get the work done, because you really cannot micromanage the at-home worker. You just can't. And that is the issue. So that's why managers need retraining, because managers are trained for time clock. You're logging at 9, you log out at 5. That's the manager brain. That is a 20th century manager brain. But the 21st century manager brain has to be different, right? Because it's no longer 9 o'clock, and if you're here 9:05, you're late. So we can't even judge. We cannot even do reviews based on punctuality anymore. That playbook is out the door. Punctuality means nothing now, right? Because people are setting their own time. So the outcome-based approach is going to be the most effective approach for this era. So that's how we're going to be being productive. All right. So Felix says the biggest problem is micromanagement. Some of the managers that are not well empowered on leadership tend to over-control their team rather than allowing members the freedom to execute their roles without an hawk eye around them. Managers need to be empowered to put more emphasis on quality output without micromanaging your team, creating the culture of working without supervision. I support work both from home or office premise as long as we are aligned to the vision, mission, and I'm sure there was more. So I agree with Felix, right? And this is the reason why I have to go back to, we have to retrain managers. And this is a leader's role. So leaders, it's great being a leader and all of that, but you have to look at your vision and mission as well, because what you have communicated to managers throughout the years will not work now. What Felix is saying, what Wayne is asking is micromanagement will not work. You cannot micromanage at-home workers. It's impossible. It is impossible, okay, to micromanage at-home workers. So you're going to have to switch your mindset, switch your expectations to an outcome-based system. So Ruben says, I value research like Gallup and others alike. The data serves me as a benchmark, validation, new insights, and innovation. It's not easy to manager's role. You are in the middle of all the flags, up, down, right, left, company, customers development. Manager's development is a good strategy to improve our culture, performance, and engagement. Ruben, you're right. You said it very nicely, Ruben, right? The manager's in the middle, right? So the leader is, stuff is slowing downhill, right? So it stops at the manager's door, and people are complaining about the system, and it stops at the manager's door. So a lot of times managers tend to be just be in reactive mode, right? They're reacting to the boss's complaint, and they're reacting to the people's complaint. It's a no-win situation. That's been the traditional role of managers. That will not work. It just will not work in today's environment. The organization is not going to be effective. It's not going to be agile. It's not going to be, you're not going to retain employees like that. Employees are a lot more evolved right now. There are way too many options out there. And so leaders, as you're watching this, you really have to put some of that budget that you have on executive coaching, right? Which is all well and good, but you got to put that in the manager ranks for management development. Eduardo, high def camera resolution, congrats. If you're talking about my camera, Eduardo, let me know. Because I know it's been awful the last few weeks, my internet. So if that's what you're talking about, Eduardo, let me know. So I don't want to pronounce your name wrong, so I'm going to say Jay says, are managers supposed to work at ground level, or just getting the work done is expected from good managers? Would like to hear your opinion. So Jay, when you say ground level, are you meaning that are they supposed to get their hands dirty and all that stuff? I would say a good manager, this is my thought. And Jay, you can clarify if I'm going the wrong direction for you. My opinion is that a manager doesn't have to prove that they can get down and dirty. That's the reason why they were promoted in the first place. I think they've already proven that they're good at the work. I believe a manager should manage people using leadership skills. That's why I am promoting and pushing that managers get trained in leadership skills. I think managers, rather than saying managers manage process, managers manage people who are doing the work, right? I don't think they have to prove that they're, oh my God, I can do this spreadsheet as good as you can do this spreadsheet. No, enough of that. I think they should manage, their team's career, their team's personal development, the customer relationship with the organization. They should manage those things, right? Pretty much managing the asset of the organization, which is the people. That's what they should be doing. Making sure that the team is functioning well, making sure that people on the team who are rising stars and who are smart are given the opportunities to go up. That's what they should do. What's been happening in traditional organizations is that managers tend to sometimes block the growth of rising stars. And that's just because it's been the culture, right? Managers need to be empowered, not to block the growth, but to rather to empower growth, right? But that has to come from the leader, because when you empower growth, the company's going to grow, and we have to grow opportunities. That's my opinion on management. So Tamara says, Wayne, I've never been trained as a manager at any company that I have been employed. I was promoted from within and used leadership skills and mentoring employees to make sure that my department excelled. Training is a big issue with small. Tamara, you're absolutely right. Look, I'm a coach and consultant, right? Where do companies spend the money? They spend the money for me to come in and coach CEOs, which is great. Hey, I'm not complaining, and coach the C-suite. But I'm always working with the manager level. And companies need to put more money in training managers. I mean, that's just the truth. I've seen it when I'm working with organizations. The issues that I'm seeing is the way how managers are doing their work, and it's not 100% their fault. Just like you said, Tamara, when you got promoted, right, you had to use your leadership skills. You had to go figure that out on your own. You had to know how to mentor your employees. You had to do it on your own. But there should be, I believe, a new thought where managers are treated like mini CEOs of their department. That's my thought, and be given the same opportunities. Someone says, and that decreased morale in the workplace, especially the employees weren't previously managed that way within the workplace. I understand having to reevaluate how you're going to manage work from home, but micromanaging still is an answer. Micromanaging is not the answer. It never was, and it never will be, especially now. How can you micromanage people? Like, if I was working for someone, how could you micromanage me? I'm at home. I'm having my coffee when I want to have my coffee. And, if I want to get up and go for a run because I feel stressed out, you can't micromanage me. But what you need to do, what you need to ask of me is that I produce results. That's what you need to ask of me within a certain time frame. So let's see. Guys, you've been asking some good questions and making some good statements. Let me just see what Raj was responding to Wayne. I agree, but the proper evaluation can make difference. I may be wrong, but as far as my experience, I saw people who are having title of managers, and the reportee to those managers are far better than those managers in the base of strategic performance. So Raj, this is not new news, right? What you're saying, and the issue has been this. Of course, there are smarter people than the manager in most organizations, right? And what has happened, Raj, is because managers aren't trained, they aren't wired up here to develop people. What they do is they stifle people. That's the leader's fault. Why do I say that? So when I had when I was running my organization, and Wayne Gill and I are husband and wife, right? So we run a law firm together for 20 something years, and I run a charity for like 16 years, right? So here's what I did when I saw the bottleneck in the management ranks, and I, by the way, pushed my managers to go on courses, classes, community college stuff, which we pay for. So, and even with all that training, I did still see that competition with some managers with the rising stars. And I would hear from the rising stars that the managers were leading their growth, right? Even though I myself was pulling the managers up. So what I did as a leader in my organization, I tied in my managers' compensation and their performance appraisal with how many people they developed and empowered for the next level was on their team. So they had to train people. They had to empower people. They had to develop people because it was now tied into their own compensation. And that is the reason why I say the leaders have to change the culture, right? And re-educate their managers, because that's going to always happen. So let's see. Great observation, guys. I'll take one more at the 30-minute level. You guys have been awesome. I'll take one more question, one more comment. Okay, so Felix says, hello, Sharon. Which are some of the key areas you could encourage organizations to train their managers, especially now the new normal in the hybrid work environments, to be better equipped to excel with that? Okay, so I just heard today, I did a post today on I believe it was on my regular page on communication, right? I was talking about communication chaos. And I was told that June was communication effectiveness month, right? So I would say the first thing, Felix, is how to communicate, right? How to get your points across. So that was a key area, because we're going to have to communicate differently to the different environment, right? We cannot have the same rules, and we cannot have the same expectations in terms of, like I said, 9 to 5, right? The traditional model, you come to work, you punch the time clock, 9 o'clock, you're out at 5. That's not going to be the rules for the at-home people, right? So how do you communicate, right? So communication is going to be key. Teaching your managers more effective communication tactics, strategies. Also, another key skill is how to training the managers how to incorporate the at home or the work from home people with the in office people. The managers have to be skilled at creating a cohesive environment through meetings. And again, it comes back to communication, to how they do their meetings. It's going to be really important that the people at home don't feel left out, and the people who chose to go back to work don't feel like they're getting less, right, than the ones at home. So it's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of team building exercise, getting both teams together fairly regularly. I think that's one of the ways where where we can be successful with this stuff. So let's say once a week, right, we have a team meeting where the online folks are getting together with the folks who are in the office, and we're talking through strategies. We're going into Zoom break-off rooms, and we're it's almost like we're there with each other. This is going to allow the folks who work at home to still respect the talents of those who work at in the office, and vice versa. Because I'm going to still be the same smart Sharon as a smart Felix who chose to go back to work. But we will only know this if we're getting together often around common goal, a common mission, and talking. Okay, so communication is going to be key, and getting people to be in these smaller meetings, right, often is going to be the key. It's going to be the key for this to work in a hybrid. And let's see. Vinci says sales and marketing managers are having the biggest pressure during the COVID. Good managers tend to leave for better opportunities regardless of the pandemic. How to motivate them for retention? If I'm a leader, how do I motivate my good managers? I would be spending a lot of money on getting them coaching, getting them getting them developed. Everyone likes to grow, right? So I would spend money there on development and investing in my managers and giving them opportunities to grow. Also, also, this is not a big known word or term. I did a talk 2 years ago to some HR folks about entrepreneurship with an E versus intrapreneurship. And just let me just quickly say, entrepreneurship is probably the wave of the future. Entrepreneurship is allowing your managers and your department to have some autonomy in creating new services and new products, right? That's gonna it's like being an entrepreneur, but you're doing that within your organization. Leaders need to wrap their head around that because that's going to create really creative environments. That's the way how Google did it. That's the way how 3M did it when it did that sticky pad. This sticky pad came out of an entrepreneurial brainstorming session, right? At 3M, I think it was. So giving your managers more autonomy and training and tools is going to keep them there. So I think you guys have been great today. Wayne says one way to show them that you care beyond money with flexibility of schedule and quality of environment and benefits. You can't put a price on those things. That's very true, Wayne. And one last thing, we're called the purpose-centered leadership page for a reason, right? The big idea squashed down is training organizations to go beyond the money, right? Right, like Wayne said, to go beyond the money and to get your folks wrapped around causes, right? So, in other words, and this would be good for the hybrid environment, adopt a cause, a charity, a mission, something outside of the walls of your company that's doing something good in this world. Adopt one, and then get your people, get your team involved with serving there, maybe one day a year, contributing there, but doing something that's adding value to the community in which they live and work. That's the heart of purpose-centered leadership, is taking what we call corporate social responsibility and bringing that into the DNA of your company, right? It's something that I'm very passionate about. And I love when companies go beyond that money stuff, where we want to make money so we can add value to the community, but really showing empathy and heart for those who are in need or, suffering, fixing community problems through the efforts and the work and the extra profits that you're making in your organization. That is also a good way to rally everyone around some kind of a common cause that's doing some good. So guys, if you're going to watch this after this 37-minute mark, you're going to be in team replay. Great discussion. Loved it. Thank you guys so much. And so this is going to be available for replay, of course, and put your comments in the feed. I promise you, I go back through and I respond. And for those of you, if you are a leader, right, this is what I do. I would love to speak with you to help you design a program that's going to empower and train our 21st century managers. And if you're watching, talk to your boss and let them bring me in. Okay. So until next time, take care and thank you for being part of the broadcast.